Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why some men leave a permanent mark on a woman's heart while others fade away like they were never there? Why do certain men stay unforgettable, etched into a woman's memory, no matter how much time passes? It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's not even about flashy confidence. No, it's something deeper, something rooted in female psychology that most men never truly understand. Because here's the truth: women never forget a man who does certain things for them. These actions, these gestures, these attitudes, they're like emotional fingerprints. Once you leave them, they don't disappear. They stay imprinted in her mind, whether she admits it or not. And in today's video, I'm going to break down exactly what those things are. I'm not talking about cliches or empty promises. I mean the real, science backed, experience tested things that make a man unforgettable in a woman's life. So if you've ever wanted to know how to stand out, how to be the man she remembers even years later, then stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how female psychology works when it comes to memory, emotion, and attraction. Trust me, once you know this, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. But before we dive in, let me make this clear. This isn't about manipulating women. This isn't about being fake or playing tricks. This is about becoming a man of value, a man who naturally leaves a lasting impression. Because when you show up with authenticity, strength, and depth, that's when she'll never forget you. So let's get into it. Here are the things women never forget a man for doing, broken down through the lens of female psychology. Main body start one: the man who makes her feel truly seen and heard. Now let's start with the first and most powerful thing a man can do: make a woman feel truly seen and heard. Think about this. Most people go through life never really being listened to. Everyone's busy talking, posting, shouting their opinions, waiting for their turn to speak. But when a man stops, looks her in the eyes, and genuinely listens, it changes everything. Psychology shows us that memory is heavily tied to emotion. And what emotion is more powerful than feeling understood? A woman never forgets the man who pays attention to the small details, the way she talks about her dreams, the things that scare her, that random story she told about her childhood dog. You see, when you remember the little things, it tells her, you matter. You're not just background noise, you're important. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman casually mentions she loves a certain kind of tea. Weeks later, when you show up with that exact tea, you're not just giving her a drink, you're showing her that you listened. And that kind of attention is rare. And here's the deeper psychology: women are wired to remember emotional experiences. If you made her feel validated, if you made her feel that her voice had weight, that memory gets stored deep in her emotional brain. Years later, she might forget what car you drove, what clothes you wore, even what you looked like at the time. But she will never forget how you made her feel when she spoke and you actually listened. So remember this: listening is not passive, it's active attraction. Two, the man who challenges her to grow. Here's the second thing women never forget: the man who challenges them to grow. Now, let's be honest. Most men either go two ways: they play it too safe, always agreeing, always saying, yes, whatever makes you happy. Or they become overly controlling, trying to force their way of life onto her. But the man she never forgets is the one who finds the balance. The man who doesn't let her settle for mediocrity, but also doesn't try to control her path. Psychology tells us that humans remember the people who change the trajectory of their lives. We all have someone in our past, a teacher, a mentor, a friend, who pushed us in a way we didn't expect, and it stuck with us. For women, when a man does this with the right balance of care and strength, it's unforgettable. Let me give you an example. Imagine she's been talking about starting her own side business for months, but fear keeps holding her back. Most people in her life just nod and say, "Yeah, that would be nice." But you don't just nod, you push her. You say, "Look, I believe in you. Stop doubting yourself. Let's make a plan and take that first step." That's powerful because you're not just supporting her, you're challenging her to rise to her own potential. You're showing her that you see more in her than she sees in herself. And here's the kicker: even if that relationship ends, even if life moves on, she will always remember the man who pushed her to become a better version of herself. Why? Because every time she succeeds, every time she levels up, a piece of her will whisper, "He believed in me when no one else did." That's the psychology of impact. That's how you become unforgettable, not by being her comfort zone, but by being her launch pad. But being unforgettable isn't just about pushing her. Sometimes it's about the moments when you show strength through vulnerability. Three, the man who shows strength through vulnerability. This one might surprise you. Most men think women only remember the strong, stoic, never cry, never break kind of guy. But that's not the whole truth. Yes, women respect strength. Yes, they're drawn to confidence, but here's the paradox of female psychology. Women also never forget the man who showed them his human side. Why? Because vulnerability creates intimacy. It creates emotional safety. It says, "I trust you enough to let you see me as I really am." Think about it like this: a man who's all strength and no vulnerability becomes hard to connect with. He's admired, but he's not remembered on a soul deep level. But when a man who is strong most of the time opens up, when he admits he had a tough childhood, or shares his fears about the future, or even sheds a tear when life hits hard, that moment of truth gets locked into her memory. And let's be clear: vulnerability is not weakness. Weakness is complaining without action. Weakness is being emotionally unstable all the time. Vulnerability is strength. It's having the courage to show that you're not perfect while still standing tall as a man. Here's an example. Imagine a guy tells a woman that his father worked 3 jobs to provide for the family, and that's why he values hard work so much. That story isn't weakness, it's vulnerability mixed with strength. And she'll never forget it because it gave her a glimpse into the real man behind the mask. Psychology backs this up. Emotional experiences, especially ones tied to authenticity, are stored more deeply in memory. So when you let her see your scars, your lessons, your truths, you're giving her a memory she can't erase. Because women forget surface level guys all the time, but they never forget the man who trusted them enough to let his heart show. Now, of course, being vulnerable is powerful, but what makes you truly unforgettable is when you pair that vulnerability with something else: consistency. 4. The man who shows consistency, not just words. Let me tell you one of the biggest truths in female psychology. Women don't remember the promises you made, they remember the promises you kept. Consistency is the game changer. Why? Because so many men talk big in the beginning. They'll say, "I'll always be there," or "I'll support you no matter what." But when the test comes, when life gets messy, when things get inconvenient, suddenly the actions don't match the words. And guess what? That inconsistency makes you forgettable, even replaceable. But the man she never forgets, that's the one who followed through. If you said you'd call, you called. If you promised to be there for something important, you showed up. If you said you valued loyalty, you proved it. Not once, but every single time. Consistency is attractive because it builds trust, and trust builds memory. Here's a real world story. Imagine she tells you that her big presentation at work is coming up. Most guys would say, "Good luck, you'll do great." Nice words, sure, but the man she never forgets? He sends her a message that morning: "I know you've got this. I believe in you." Or he waits to call her after just to ask how it went. Small action, huge impact. Why? Because it proves consistency. It proves she can count on you. And when a woman feels safe in that way, her brain stores that memory under the category of rare and unforgettable. And here's the deeper psychology. Our brains are wired to hold on to people who create patterns of reliability, the people who show up again and again. That's why women forget the men who flaked, ghosted, or broke their word. But they never forget the man who showed up when it mattered most. So if you want to be unforgettable, don't just say it. Do it again and again until your actions write a story in her mind that words could never replace. But consistency isn't the final piece of the puzzle because the men women never forget also do something else, something that strikes right at the heart of attraction itself. 5. The man who protects her without controlling her. Let's move on to one of the deepest instincts in female psychology: protection. Now, listen closely because this one often gets misunderstood. A woman will never forget the man who made her feel safe. Not just physically safe, but emotionally safe, socially safe, and spiritually safe. But safety is not about control. It's not about saying, don't wear that or don't talk to him. That's insecurity disguised as protection. True protection is very different. It's the quiet confidence that says, I've got your back when life gets rough. I'll step in if someone disrespects you. You don't have to be afraid when I'm around. It's not about limiting her freedom. It's about expanding her freedom because she knows you're a shield, not a cage. Think about it. A man who walks her home late at night without her asking. A man who stands up for her when someone speaks disrespectfully. A man who reassures her when she's doubting herself, not with empty words, but with presence and strength. These are not grand, flashy gestures. They're subtle but unforgettable. Why? Because women remember how safe you made them feel. Psychology backs this up. The female brain is biologically wired to value security. It's evolutionary. Throughout history, the man who could protect was the man who mattered. But in the modern world, protection is not about fighting off wild animals. It's about emotional intelligence, loyalty, and reliability. Here's a story. Imagine a woman is at a gathering and someone makes a rude joke at her expense. Some men would laugh along, some would stay silent. But the unforgettable man, he calmly but firmly says, "Hey, that's not cool. Don't talk to her like that." Boom. That moment is seared into her memory forever. Because here's the thing, she doesn't just remember that you protected her, she remembers how it made her feel: safe, valued, respected. And I'll say it again: protecting does not mean controlling. The man who controls is forgettable because eventually she'll resent him. But the man who protects, she'll carry the memory of that strength with her forever. But protection isn't the final piece because the men, women never forget, always leave behind something even deeper, something that outlives the relationship itself. 6. The man who leaves her better than he found her. This last point is the crown jewel. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. A woman never forgets the man who left her better than he found her. What does that mean? It means she grew because of you. She learned because of you. She walked away, even if the relationship ended, feeling stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. Most men leave scars. Some leave emptiness. But the unforgettable man, he leaves growth. Think of it this way. Maybe you taught her self-respect by the way you respected her. Maybe you showed her what healthy love looks like. Maybe you inspired her to chase her dreams. Maybe you introduced her to new ideas, new ways of thinking, or simply reminded her of her own worth when she had forgotten it. That's legacy. And legacies are unforgettable. Here's a scenario. A woman looks back 5 years later, and maybe you're no longer together. She's moved on, maybe even married. But every time she stands confidently in a room, Every time she chooses self respect over settling, she remembers that it was you who planted that seed. That doesn't disappear. Psychology tells us that humans remember the transformative people in their lives, the ones who changed their story, even in small ways. If you gave her wisdom, support, encouragement, or strength, she will never forget you. And here's the beauty: you don't need to stay in her life to be unforgettable. Even if you part ways, she will always carry a piece of what you gave her. And every time she taps into that strength, your name echoes in the back of her mind. So if you want to be the man a woman never forgets, don't just focus on what you get from her. Focus on what you give to her. Ask yourself, am I leaving her better than I found her? Because if the answer is yes, congratulations, you've become unforgettable. Conclusion and motivational close. So let's bring this all together. Women never forget a man who made them feel truly seen and heard, challenged them to grow, showed strength through vulnerability, proved consistency, not just words, protected them without controlling them, left them better than he found them. That's it. Not magic tricks, not mind games, not shallow pickup lines. These are timeless truths rooted in female psychology and human connection. And here's the best part: you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be a millionaire or a celebrity or some flawless version of yourself. You just need to show up as a man of value, a man who leads with integrity, who listens, who protects, who inspires, who leaves behind growth instead of pain. Because here's what most men don't realize: being unforgettable isn't about what you look like, it's about what you leave behind. And if you leave behind trust, safety, respect, and inspiration, you'll never be forgotten. So, my challenge to you is this: starting today, step into that role. Don't just chase being liked, don't just chase temporary attention. Chase legacy, chase impact. Be the man whose presence is remembered long after he's gone. And if you do that, trust me, she'll never forget you. Narrator, Dirt host. If this video gave you value, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights on relationships and psychology. And let me ask you, what do you think makes a man unforgettable? Drop your answer in the comments below, because your story might inspire someone else. Until next time, remember, don't just be present in her life, be unforgettable.